Well, tonight on our front, we put our focus on the demands of pensioner bondholders who are up in arms against the finance ministry for failing to honor their coupons and principals when we return from this break. You welcome back. This is Upfront. My name is Raymond Acquah. After failure to pay 7 coupons, our respected elderly men and women have run out of patience and resumed their picketing, which was previously seen as a scar on the conscience of the entire nation. Well, tonight, they will make the case for interest payments on 4 defaulted principal payments. But can the government refusing to pay coupons and principals be able to cough out more money to pay interest rates? We are joined in studio later on in this conversation by Dr. Edouard. He is the convener of that group of pensioner bondholders. Ultimately, we shall be joined, perhaps now, by former Finance Minister Sektepe and economist and policy leader at the Institute for Fiscal Studies, Dr. Said Boakye. The question remains, what is the real impact of the current IMF Programme on the poor and vulnerable in the Republic of Ghana? Let me first start with the man who in 2015 was part and crucial to Ghana's quest for an IMF program, and perhaps understands this more than most people because he's been there and done that. Sektepe, you're welcome to Upfront.
Thank you very much, and good evening to your viewers and listeners.
Now, let me start from what's currently the biggest story in the Republic of Ghana today. Before we deal with the larger impact, many even insist that pensioners are part of the vulnerable in the Republic of Ghana. So let me start from what's been their tango with the Ministry of Finance on the payment of what was promised them prior to the conclusion of our domestic debt exchange. That is, the regular payment of their coupons and also making sure that they get their principal as and when they fall due. This has not been the case. They are quite livid and have returned to one of the most embarrassing moments in our history. Elderly people picketing at the finance ministry. But the understanding you have of this process, is it justified for the finance ministry to continuously delay or default in the payments of some of these coupons?
Yeah, what I have to say about this, Raymond, is that I think we should see it as among the difficulties that the country is going through. You recall that, the main condition in the staff level agreement that was passed last year, November, that was agreed last year, November, was the restructuring of our debt, by which time we had suffered significant ratings downturns and we were defaulting in payment. Now, it was made a condition that we had to restructure the debt, both domestic and external, before the next step, which is going to the board. Now, whilst that was going on, we were given the parameters for the restructuring. You recall that initially pensioners and pension fund holders were not excluded.
Yeah.
It was to be, besides treasury bills, bilaterals, bilaterals, and multilaterals, if you remember, those were the only exclusions, very narrow. So we're to do a comprehensive restructure. Now, the other thing which I think we need to remember is that it is not an exercise on its own. It is an exercise that is intended to bring the country back to a situation of debt sustainability. And there was a debt sustainability analysis which was underway, but not published until the fund program. Now, what one would have to understand is that if you are in debt crisis and you have to restructure the debt and to make it sustainable, then there must be some assumptions underlying the path to debt sustainability, and underlying that will be assumptions as to which debt was to be restructured. So once you take something out of that, you disturb the equation. And I believe that that is under pressure, part of what must have happened. So once it's out of alignment, something had to give. Of course, government was under pressure and made some promises. My understanding at the time was that it was based on provisions that were made in the budget, which in terms of savings would be used to make the savings. Making a provision in the budget is quite different from having cash to pay. If we had a cash to pay, we wouldn't be defaulting. So I guess the issue now is whether if government were to make these payments, we would still be on the path of sustainability. To finish my thought on this one, we then did not, whilst that was hanging, the external debt issue came in, and we were told that we had agreed, but I think after the visit to Washington, it was obvious that there were some issues outstanding on the domestic. Then France and China, as being chairpersons for the external, particularly the bilateral, agreed, to give the assurances with which we went to the board because the situation was deteriorating. So I'm afraid we are back to a cash situation because we have a fiscal situation where it was the Bank of Ghana that was doing the heavy lifting with the process of going into the fund program beginning after the board. Bank of Ghana is required to stop that financing and move to the path of zero financing. We have become dependent on T-bills because we cannot issue bonds, both domestic and external, which is what we are restructuring. So the whole issue is a liquidity one. So if the ministry had the money, they would pay. I believe strongly that the issuances that are being made, mainly through T-bills and whatever savings, are not enough to pay compensation and interest. Whatever remains of interest that is not being suspended. And so we are having rollover costs. And I think that is the crux of the matter. It's a liquidity, issue.
But has government been forthright with the people? I mean, these people were given assurances who were in the Republic of Ghana. Some say the use of expressions like the practicality of payment, which was raised early on, that as and when government had money, that's when it was going to pay. Did it come up? Was it clear from the beginning that government was going to face some of these challenges? Others have pointed to the fact that even before we finished a very first level of review, we've had some 600 million coming in from the IMF. Why are we having money and yet we cannot clear some of these outstanding payments as and when they fall due?
Yeah, you raised two issues. And the first one, even as former finance minister, I wasn't at the table. It's very difficult. And you've mentioned, my senior in profession and in employment, Mr. Ananin, coming on. I think he was there. And so the precise form of assurances that were given, if liquid, I believe that I would defer to him, to discuss the terms. I wouldn't want to be speculating or theorizing since you have the man himself coming. But it could be that the ministry was expecting some projections of revenue to come in and probably some cost savings, and therefore would have had the money, to pay. If it's not paying, as I keep saying, the issue is sufficiently hot, for government to have honored its promise if it had the cash to pay. So I believe strongly it's a matter of commitments, and the sources from which it was. Remember, a provision is not necessarily does not necessarily mean that you have, the cash.
How should this be handled? The understanding we have currently running is that, well, government's making fresh promises. In fact, there's a new proposal on the table where government is trying to say that it would want to buy them out of the bond market completely. Or, some say it's delisting, but would that be a solution if they are actually bought out of the bond market?
Excuse me.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
I'm not sure, what that means. Delisting and not putting them on the market. I'm not sure how that will bring the money. It's just reverting, excuse me, it's reverting to the status of treasury bills. Treasury bills are not marketable, and they are dealt with through Bank of Ghana. And remember, that was the status of our bonds. The domestic bonds we are talking about today were not marketable. They were just, issued through the BOJ auction until 2015 as part of our deepening of the domestic debt market and through the book building. We put them on the markets. And since then, they have done well, in becoming the fixed income market, as we call it. Or what we used to call the government, fixed income market. Now it's Ghana, yes. And so I don't see how the listing it, would improve the liquidity position. We are talking about liquidity, and to the extent that if the listing means that there will be house again, we don't have the in the custody of Bank of Ghana and the CSD, and so I don't see it as an immediate solution, except to say that if it is depressing the domestic debt market, remember the bonds are not the only ones. The domestic debt market, we have equity, and we have equity funds, and we do have also some corporate bonds. So if it's depressing the market, that may be the only reason I can see for delisting them.
Now, what should be done on both sides? First, what should government do now? It appears government is not going to keep up with these payments, and it becomes an issue consistently. The pensioner bondholders are picketing. They are, so far, 7 failed coupon payments on record. 7 failed coupon payments. There used to be 16, then 15 was cleared, and 6 more accrued between the 15th of May and the 6th of June. All of this is making people feel you can't trust government for its word. What should a government that's currently entangled in this web do?
I'd like to go back to where I started. Our government had negotiated. Government has not been able to meet its commitments. And I'd like to emphasize that the issue one tells us is a reflection of where we are today, in terms of government's ability to meet its obligations. Remember, it's not just the pensioners. We should just appreciate just the pensioners who were giving promises. Yes, I do agree with, school feeding, contractors, and others who are also owed. Some of those contractors, if you remember, are suffering a double jeopardy in the sense that, even despite the extra resources that was to be used to pay them, they were giving bonds. And those bonds, are suffering, to their haircut. So after a long period of waiting for their payments, and they were giving bonds. Those bonds are now part of what cannot be honored. So I'd like to prevail on, fellow Ghanaians to see, the bigger picture, of the fiscal situation, and hope that, we would finish the external debt restructuring, which, if I'm not mistaken, I heard Minister say could be as long as November, but finish the domestic debt restructuring, have a trajectory, for, payments of whatever is agreed, and if any savings can come out of that. I heard you mention the support, which we got, from the fund, after we went to the board. That has a lot of competition, including providing some funding for Bank of Ghana to keep the CD afloat. We are in a situation where we are not going to get 3 billion upfront as we got with COVID loan or as we got with SDR. We are back to the traditional IMF program where you have to perform. We know the criteria that have been set. We knew which ones we had to satisfy, before, we went to the board. And that includes the domestic debt restructuring. So I think, Raymond, we should pass the discussion in a wider, the discussion of this specific issue in a wider context, so that we can appreciate, the difficulties which the economy is going through.
The Finance Minister, what would you be telling these pensioner bondholders? You failed to deliver. What can you tell them now if you were Finance Minister?
Bring them to the table. That's what we did. Remember, we had huge arrears, on single spike, if you remember, labor. We had attempted to pay it through borrowing. We did significant borrowing of domestic bonds between 2010 and 2012-13, and it was unsustainable. So we did, I believe, I'm not sure if you were there, but your colleagues were certainly at home, and they were attack ready, where we lay bare the situation, that we faced, and the fact that continuing to borrow was not the sustainable path to go. What we did is somewhat what government attempted to do. But remember, we spread, having brought the data out and the difficulty facing the economy, 70%, I recall, or close to 70% of tax revenue, not total revenue, was going to go into the compensation and arrears. We agreed to continue paying, the salaries at current level and spread the arrears over a period of 3 years or so, 2.5 to 3 years. And we bought some peace, but you had to honor. So we're able to make sufficient savings, to continue with those payments. The economy itself as a whole, if you remember, we started with the homegrown policy. We needed a buy-in. So in that regard, we went to Senchi. And my boss, the former president, had made a suggestion a while ago that we're at a point where we need to broaden the discussion. And I think that was ignored. So, if you owe, you just have to meet the people and make sure that the promise is realistic and it can be met.
I am grateful to you, but I'll be coming back to you, Mr. Secretary. But let me come in studio here. The man you referenced early on is with us, Dr. Edward Anianchi. You are so hopeful that government was going to deliver, even though some have drawn your attention to the possibility that the words that are being chosen, it sounded like we're only going to pay you guys when we had money, and as and when government was able to make the payments. Stricto sensu contract-wise, it is unfair the state you find yourself. But why are you still not listening to a government that says we are hard up, we can pay now, we may be able to do so in the future?
Well, thank you. We are also hard up. We need to buy medication. You see, if you haven't gone through such life, you wouldn't understand what is happening. Many of us, that is their only source of income that they use to buy their medicines. Forget about paying bills, electricity. If you have life, they say you have everything. So electricity, others, even if you discount that, solely even for medication. You can't ask people to wait and not take their medicine until you get money. And we know that in our own small way, sometimes we go out and borrow money to take care of the sick.
I see.
Yes. You borrow. If it has hit you, I don't say it should hit you, but if it hits you and any of your relative or your child or whatever is sick, and you don't have the money, what do? You go and borrow to take care of the sick person. And so that is exactly what we are saying. For these people, they rely solely on these coupons. They don't have any other source of income. So manage them. Find a way of paying them so that they can live.
Now, so far, there are 7 failed coupon payments.
Yes.
Right. Now, it was 16. The government cleared 15. And 6 more accrued. Is it the one between the 15th of May and the June 6th? One may say, mindful of our circumstances, government is trying.
It shouldn't have hit that 16.
Yeah, I agree.
It shouldn't have hit it. That should not be the norm. You see, we all tried. We know what was happening. When government was unable to pay, first, before the DDP ended, government already was in arrears of the 6th February and the 20th and the 13th February. Yeah. But we say, no, we won't put any pressure because the program hasn't ended. The program was extended, but on the 21st of February, that was what we call the settlement day. And the settlement date in the market is a day that all people who have applied for the shares, they are clearing checks and whatever should go through. And the issuer should also issue the bonds or the securities to them. So we say, let's wait for 21st to come. It is only 21st that we will see those who have tendered in their bonds and those who didn't tender, including the exempted people, so that government will now know which people are supposed to be paid. So we waited. 21st. We waited again to 27th. See, all these days giving to government. Before we went to government, that look, you should have paid us by 21st, but you haven't paid. And government say, well, I'm doing some reconciliation still, so give me up to 13th. We allowed that. 13th came, no payment was made, and we had to raise alarm on the 14th before government came and said, I'm going to pay. But if even starting pay, I'm paying for only 2 of the coupons, 6th and the 13th. We said, we don't do that. But the government did that and said, in due course, I'll come and tell you when I'm going to pay the rest. We waited. We didn't hear anything. Then government came and said, I'm paying that of 20th. You pay 20th, the coupon, and left the principal. And that was the end. That's why now we said, oh, we have given government so much time. And now if we don't take care, our lives were at stake. People needed their money for their medication. It's not coming. In this country, nobody gives the elderly people any drug, unlike elsewhere where your drugs are supplied. Because they know that you wouldn't. And I tell people...
But you are exempt.
Yes.
From NHIS.
Yes.
As in payment of, what they call it, the recurrent payments you do in NHIS.
No, I go and ask whether if you are on insulin, NHI will pay you.
Okay, there are some drugs that are outside the
yes.
terrain.
Even your ordinary high blood pressure and your diabetes, whether it's the NHIS, which is paying.
Okay, no, I get your point.
And this is critical. It's not that normal thing, that APC thing that you are using. When you get to that age, that you see.
Now, I need to put this also in proper perspective. Now, the thinking that your biggest problem is with principal payments. Why so?
Now, you see, earlier on, we didn't think the principals was going to be an issue.
Yeah.
Because, for me, I have said, and I keep on saying that, I don't think the principal should be an issue. Yes. I don't think the principal should be an issue. The coupons, rather, is more of an issue. Because I've said that government can borrow and pay the principal. You borrow to retire part of your debt. You are still at the same level. You owe 2 million. 1 million has come out for payment. You don't have the 1 million. So you borrow from somebody another 1 million and pay this 1 million people. Your debt level is still at 2. I can't understand. So I have said that for principal, I didn't think government was supposed to delay like that. But for the interest, If you borrow, it raises because you are not using it to replace an old debt. It's a new borrowing you are doing to pay off. So the coupon, I believe, had a problem. But even that one, I say, well, if you borrow a little more at the treasury bill market and use it to service this, it is better, especially for the aged who solely are relying on these coupons. And if you don't give it to them, their life is impaired, their health is impaired. And I always say that when the COVID was there, the president keep on saying that you can't bring people back from death, but you can bring the economy back. So borrow a little to service these elderly people so that they can live. If you have lived your life and put down something which you know at the end of the day, that is what you are going to use to buy your medication, especially, and the thing is not coming, then you see what you are going through.
Do we have space within the IMF program to borrow?
Well, the IMF hasn't said that you shouldn't borrow. Mm-hmm. They are only telling us that our debt level should not reach a certain level at a certain point in time. Yeah. And I'm saying if you borrow now, the target they are giving you is not to be achieved today, for you to say today. That is in some 4 or 5 years' time. So even if you borrow now and your things become well and you are able to generate enough resources and you slow down your borrowing going into the future, you will still meet that target. But now you need the money to give to these vulnerable people to be able to live.
Is it a proposal you've made to government directly?
I have said every day that borrow from the treasury bill market, increase your debt level a little. We will come back and resolve that issue, but we would have saved life.
And government is not being willing to do so.
Yes, the other time I saw the government was trying to borrow, and I believe they were going to borrow that to pay some of these things. When I saw that the treasury bill that was maturing was 2.13, and government sought to borrow 3.33 something, which was in excess, about 1 billion in excess of what government needs to pay to retire the treasury bill. So I knew very well that government now realizes that you must borrow to pay. Unfortunately, they didn't get the full 1 billion that they wanted. But that's what we have said, that if you want to borrow, just borrow every week. If they had been borrowing every week a little more to service the coupons, that would not have landed us in this.
Or accumulated.
If you accumulate it and now you need over 1 billion to service, and you go to this treasury bill market and you are asking for 1 billion, definitely the price will go up.
Now, I mean, I'm just asking some of these questions because it appears we are in some form of a deadlock where government is consistently making the reference that, see, we are hard up, we don't know what to do again. We just complete with you to give us some leeway. I understand a fresh proposal has been put on the table.
Yeah.
My colleague puts it in these terms, and it's quite interesting. Said, yeah, the new proposal is to buy you out of the bond market.
Yeah.
What does that really mean?
Well, I'm giving you back your money. That's in simple terms.
As in your principal payment?
But that is where the problem is. If you say you are buying me back at market, you are buying me back. That's the first proposal. They said they are buying you out at market. These bonds that we are holding, you can't get a par value for your bonds when you want to sell it.
Now.
You see, when this is a bond that is in default
already.
Nobody will nobody want to buy a bond that is in default. So probably if you go to the market and you are selling this and you have 100,000 value of bonds, you may end up getting about 60,000 or 65 or maximum 70,000. So the price, the market will price you that low because of the whatever this bond is carrying. It's not that it's potentially, it is in default because once the interest is due and is not paid, you have defaulted. It's not only the principal. When you default on interest, you have defaulted. So these bonds are already in default because their interest has not been paid. And then principal also is not paid. So it's total. So nobody will want to buy bonds that have that tag, is carrying that baggage. So nobody will, so if you say I'm going to buy at market, then of course people are just going to lose that amount.
Is that better than nothing?
It is not, because we haven't said we want you to come and buy from us. If I am hot and pushed to the wall and I want to sell, that's what in finance you say forced sale.
Yeah.
If you want to, you yourself want to sell because you needed the money, then that's your own decision, your own choice. So forced sales. But not when the issuer can't say, I am forcing you to let me buy that. Of course, when the issuer comes, it's a proposal. You can decide not to take it unless you are forced, you think that you are hit to the wall, and so you are taking it. So if you say you are buying us out, we have said at first, if you say you are buying us out, that's fine, but bring a proposal that is acceptable to us. And the proposal that will be acceptable to us is when you are buying it as market at the principal plus accumulated interest. So it's just to say that, look, I owe you. No, what is market? We are not dealing with you at market. You have my money. Mm-hmm. You owe me 2 million. And you say, I asked you, keep it for 3 years. Now you went round, you have toiled and you got the money. So this man, I have the money, I'm going to pay him back his 3 million. Is it market matter you are talking? Bring me my 3 million and go. And I'm saying, if there is an accumulated interest of 100,000, on that 3 million, you pay me my 3 million plus the accumulated interest, and we stop the process. What is market? For you to say your 3 million can get you 2 million. No, you owe me 3 million. If you think you have gotten me back, you have gotten money to pay me back my 3 million. That's all.
Is there a demand?
As interest.
Is demand for sacrifice from you that government can plead for?
No. You see, sometimes. If you look at, and I told them, the minister, that we have sacrificed. You see, before you get to this age, the things you have done is very sacrificial. We have toil, we have suffered, we have worked for this nation. And then again, we have also lent money to government. And I told people that when you are hot and you are searching for money, you are not getting people to help you. The first person that help you, don't you thank that person. Yeah. Oh, when I was in need, you gave me money, even though it's a loan. The banks, when the banks say we have helped 60,000 companies, you think they have given them free money?
No, they gave them loans.
They gave them loans.
Because
yes, they are helping them. So we have helped government by giving you a loan. We have helped. If you need money and you are not getting the money, the people you meet, that we have in adage, that somebody, you want money, you go, explain. Where Dodge, on fiscal.
You not get the money, yeah.
But we have given you. So if you go and tell somebody all your problems and he doesn't give you the money, and you meet another person and you tell and give him money, that person has helped you. So we have sacrificed, and we have toiled. We saved. We decided not to do the things that was prescribable in life.
Okay.
To save. You see, and this is what we are teaching the young ones. That look, don't chase life with the little that you have, because you are all praying God that God should give you long life. But if you don't save and plan for your long life, you will regret God answering that your prayers.
So where are we with this proposal? Has it been officially made?
No. It was last time that we met the minister.
Okay.
It was mentioned. It was in this. Today, they have brought it up, and we say, well, if you have a proposal like that, we are saying that if you really want a response, positive response to your proposal, then that is not a proposal you should bring. Bring a proposal to say that I'm buying you off.
Oh, so it's been rejected outright?
No. It's maybe before it is even born, because that is what's going to happen. Nobody would accept that. Of course, today they brought another proposal of converting the bonds into treasury bills. That is also not yet delivered to us for consideration.
But does that look like a very wonderful idea?
No, you see, I have said these bonds, and I said it today, that maybe the fear is that if government issue bonds, treasury bills to pay us, not all the money will come back. But again, I say yes, not all the money will come back because we have not done much to help bring back the public confidence.
Okay.
And the public confidence that I've always been talking about as a financial market regulator, especially a capital market regulator, I've said, public confidence, that's the only asset that this market has. That if you don't have public confidence, and the public confidence is that confidence that makes you go and put your money in the market and go and sleep without thinking,
systems will run
yes, that anytime I need my money, I'll go and take it. If you lose that public confidence, there's no financial market because nobody will bring the money. So if after the DDEP, we have started ensuring that coupons are paid on time, principals are paid on time, we would have,
restore
a little of the public confidence. So that when you are going to do anything at all, people will look at it and say, well, we went into a problem, but at least we have recovered. But when, after the problem, we are still doing the things that worsens the public confidence, then we are in trouble.
I was listening to Mr. Tektepe, who says that he's absolutely convinced the problem is that there's a liquidity challenge.
Yes.
That liquidity challenge here, if government had the money, they could give you.
Yes, but we have said government still have the treasury bill market available, and they still keep on borrowing from there. So there's that opportunity there. And it is not much. The money that they need to service the coupons of bondholders, the pensioner bondholders, it's not much, including the principal.
It may sound strange, but this matter has come up. $600 million from the IMF. Some say you have some liquidity. Deal with pressing and urgent matters, which may include trying to give it to Bank of Ghana to help with the city, but also you need to make some of these settlements from that money.
Well, I don't know what the IMF people have told us in terms of the utilization, how you should utilize that, whether you can use some.
You cannot redirect or misapply.
Yes, so I don't know, seriously. But I'm thinking that still government has that ability to take some money from the treasury bill market to pay these pensioners. These pensioners can pay.
But certainly there's something preventing them from doing so.
I don't understand what is preventing them. It's just that you don't want to increase your debt level. And I'm saying that level, increase it to save human beings who are solely depending on this. Otherwise,
is that not the increase in these debt levels that brought us where we are today? Are we not doing domestic debt exchange because we borrowed ourselves into that corner? So if government is saying that I want to be frugal and not necessarily increase the debt level, I'm trying to bring down.
Yes.
Is there anything really?
We are not saying government should increase the debt level unnecessarily.
Okay.
But we are saying that whatever is due these pensioner bondholders is insignificant. When government borrows, let government come and tell us, this is the amount I need to pay your coupons. I always say,
how much total are we talking about?
They haven't told us. And I always tell government that since I don't know, I always say that it is just small.
If really?
Yes, if it's big.
I thought you were talking from the perspective that you know the amount of money. That's why I asked you how much in total are we talking about.
We think it is just too small for pensioners. If you think otherwise, you have the figures. Tell us. Look.
I say that in all your negotiations, this has not been brought to the table.
No, we don't know how much of coupons, the value of coupons that pensioners are to get, let's say, every week. So I have said that, look, I don't think pensioners would be entitled to, let's say, more than 100 million every week. So why don't you borrow less 100 million every week and service them? Borrow 100 million every week. If you needed 2.1 for retiring of matured T-bills, borrow 2.2. Use the one to service the coupons of these elderly people. I mean, so that they don't regret and live in. Even in the U.S., the last statement, nation, what they call it,
State of the Union.
Yeah, President mentioned the senior citizens about 10 times.
Yeah, the protection.
And they have said this is the first time they have heard a president mentioning senior citizens that much. It is because even in the US, they are still bringing programs that will help the elderly, because they have even seen, US have seen that when they are growing, they live in abject poverty because all their incomes and their investments get dried up in the US.
Doc, some have said all of this is because you put your faith in a man that you could not trust.
Whereas we are supposed to trust our government. It's not, you don't commit a crime or do a wrong thing if you trust people who are in authority. So we put our trust.
Do you regret that?
It's not regretting, but we think that they should have dealt with it better than they are doing. They will still be there, and you still have to trust them because they have the mandate to do the things that you want them to do.
At the later on in this conversation, I should be asking you about how all of this impacts the capital market entirely. And of course, we are trying to recover that space. The current difficulties with payments, what signals does it send to the rest of the people in this country? I'll be asking you that. But now, two proposals, all appears not agreeable to you. So what's really the way forward for you?
Well, I think if they do the Treasury bill well, they structure it well, it might. You see, it's the extension. If I'm involved and I want to structure it, I wouldn't be talking about 1 year. I'll be talking just about 3 months. We don't have 6 months, 6 months paper, but at least 1 month, like 3 months, 90 days, and 180, 6 months, 1. The 1 year is too much. If you want to come and do something, people want their money now. If they want to give you a briefing space, it should not be that long, So 6 months, 9 months, 3 months, 9 months, people can look at it positively, So I think if you are going to 1 year, that is where, but they have to look at it. But today I've said that, look, this is marketing. It's different from sale and marketing. If you do your marketing well, you can sell your product just like that because you know what the market needs.
Really?
Yes. So if you think that these pensioners, this is what they need, and you don't meet that need, the product that you bring will not be sold because it won't be bought. So the government should just, if I want to advise, government should just sit down with us and say, well, what package we have said, we have said if we want to do this, do it principal plus accrued interest. That's all. That one, everybody would be on board. Because if you say voluntary, I say, if you don't want to succeed, and that's what I didn't like about what we were preaching for the DDEP, voluntary, but you want to succeed. Mm-hmm. So why don't you do it well so that you succeed, rather than say it's voluntary. It's voluntary. So if everybody decides not to come, have you solved your problem?
Not necessarily. Now, there's this question that's important. You are back to picketing. Is there an end in sight on that?
The end in sight will be when the payments are now normalized. Because we have said that every week there is a coupon or two that will be due, and sometimes the principal itself will be due. So they always fall on Mondays. So Monday, when they fall due, we would expect that if government is ready to pay, and by that time, if it's falling due, you might go to the Treasury bill market and make sure that by the Monday that is falling due, you have sufficient resources to pay off. If you did that, we believe Monday, if you give instructions to whoever is supposed to receive the instruction, Bank of Ghana, the CSD, or whatever, latest by Wednesday, we will see that the payments are being made. So we allow you Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. If by Wednesday evening we haven't seen any alert system working, that monies are being credited to various individuals' account, then we go there on the Thursday and Friday.
So it's become institutionalized?
Yes. Then Saturday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday,
we wait till the next Thursday.
So if by Thursday there's nothing in arrears, We won't go there.
Okay.
So the payment will itself resolve
The problem.
the problem.
Not a discussion on it.
No, not a discussion. We want to see that it's done.
Is there trust lost between you and your issuers?
The issuer, you see, the issuer must try and build confidence in this market. Let people, when I see people, they say it's coming up. At the treasury bill side, it's coming up because people are demanding. I said it's not a treasury bill market that we use to plan our development projects. It is the capital market products, and that's a long-term product. Yeah. And once the long-term ones, people now, everybody in this country now, if he has money, is going to buy treasury bills. And even that treasury bill, he might buy just the 90-day one because nobody wants to have any trust in the future. And if government is going to borrow at 90 days or even 1 year, you can't use that for any developmental project. You can't use 1 year money to build another Kusumbu Dam or to build a road or a bridge. You need a long-term capital for development.
What is this I'm hearing about you insisting on dragging government to Shraj?
Yeah, we want to say that government is not treating us well. And if we have to go to Shrag, we will submit the matter to Shrag. That these are vulnerable people. The way their government is treating them.
What would be the wrong you are accusing government?
Well, when we get there, we are going to fashion out what will be our point that we submit to Shrag.
But this is purely about payments.
Somebody will say,
force government to pay where it doesn't have money.
We'll say we will get there when we will draw what we have to draw up, and think that we have a way of telling Shrag that they have a duty to ensure that citizens' rights are also not suppressed.
How do you hope to fix what picketing has not been able to fix with a petition to Shraj?
Well, you see, sometimes you do this and for other purposes, people will not just say you don't want. You tell them that you have gone everywhere, including even Shrag. Mm-hmm. And Shrag says it. If you went to Shrag and Shrag says, oh, this one, I don't come in. So fight your own fight. We will still fight.
I get your point.
Yes.
Yeah. And Doc, let me take some round of comments from, if I have Mr. Tekpe on, and if it's possible to also hear from the Institute of Fiscal Studies, is Dr. Saeed Boache. At the core of this problem is, on the top of it, do we have safeguards implanted in our system to protect the elderly, the poor, the vulnerable in the Republic of Ghana as we actually enter the IMF program that's already given us some results in terms of the resources that we have gotten so far? So if Dr. Boache, you are on, Doc, if you can hear me, good evening.
Yeah, good evening. How are you guys doing?
Yes, I'm doing very well. And let me apologize to you for keeping you away for quite a while. The expectation was that you should have spoken earlier. But the question I'm asking is, we are already in an IMF program that has, some people call it conditionalities. We have an outstanding issue even to do with pensional bondholders, a grouping that we would have in times past considered to be very special and treated nicely. Do we have enough safeguards in this program for the protection of the poor, vulnerable, and the elderly?
Generally, they say they are going to even expand the program on LEAP and, going to ensure that, like electricity, the lifetime customers are going to be protected. So, but at the end of the day, the conditions or the conditionalities are such that everybody is going to be hit, and the poor are not going to be left out in terms of being hit. But the sad thing is that, the poor have very little space to operate. Because to begin with, their real revenues are already low, their real incomes are already low. So if the program is coming with so many taxes, electricity bill going up, water bill going up, public sector wage is not going to grow so much, the poor will definitely get a hit.
That's an important point you're making there. Sorry, I didn't hear the last point. I didn't hear you say the poor will certainly be worse off, but we have been told, and you mentioned some of the things the government intends doing. So you are saying that when you put it all together, there are more difficult times ahead for the poor and vulnerable in Ghana.
Exactly. Especially in the short to medium term. Except that after the program, if the economy has been able to come back to its knees, then things will improve. But of course, these things are expected because, if you've been taking so much sweets and you get sick, what you may need is something better to undo some of the damage you have done. We have done this thing to ourselves. Freebies were being provided. We were warning. You do not have free SHS, for instance, a good thing, but you don't have the money for it. 100,000 workers were employed under NAPCO, who did not have much to do in their offices. And you are paying all these monies out of borrowed funds. So we were warning that you're going to end up over here. Now you have ended up over here. There's nothing you can do but to take bitter pills. That will affect everybody. In fact, I was attentively listening to the senior citizen. Their plight is very serious. Nevertheless, everybody is going to share a part in trying to fix the thing. But I hope, people like that, a constituency like that, will be somewhat insulated. But the problems that we are in are enormous. And I think what the government needs to do is to be a little bit more transparent and do appropriate burden sharing. Especially the politicians who led us in here, they have to advise themselves regarding politics. At times, I don't want to talk about politics, but it is politics that have ended us here. And I thought the government was going to learn lessons. But what I saw in Kumawun and others, it looks like the government is not learning much lesson. In 2024, if we're not careful, you may blow the budget again. So the politicians have to advise themselves so that bondholders, including the senior citizens, can also take a place. Everybody is sacrificing, so let's sacrifice some more.
I am grateful to you, Dr. Boakye, and I'll take your final words on this particular point. Talking about sacrifice and the signals from the government and all of that, would that help you in any way?
You see, somebody who is supposed to be taken care of by the government, why would you be taking care of the elderly at that level? You see, I always say there are some native wisdom. In the villages, in my own village, you get to an age, you don't pay ensawa. When somebody dies, you are exempted from paying contribution towards the dead. Why? You've done all that you must do. Traditional wisdom.
Doc, I'm grateful to you for your time this evening. And Dr. Boakye, I'm grateful to you. Mr. Tekpe, I'm actually very grateful to you for joining us from your base in London, as this conversation will certainly continue in the nearest future as government seeks, among other things, to clear up the various actions required for the next rollout and the amount of money is coming in. Doc, I am hopeful that you'll be paid, and all of this will soon be in the past. Many thanks to you for joining us. And folks, that's where we end today's edition of UPfront. Many thanks to you for being part of the conversation.